Hi, good afternoon. Sorry for the slight delay with the beginning. Let me just, I'm not going to talk too much about the agenda itself. I'll leave that to Bill, our chairman for today. I'd just like to explain to you a bit about the thinking behind the Smart Homes Conference. For those of you who've not come to this event before, it's traditionally been a conference that has looked at home energy management. But the Smart Homes title, as it suggests, is inclusive of so much more than home energy management. We've tried to reflect that in the agenda for the forthcoming days. So we've got talks looking at EV, home security, home entertainment, and looking at appliances as well and the interconnectivity there. But I think the Smart Homes Conference, I like to think of it as a conversation really between ourselves in the industry, and the more that you can come back to us with your thoughts and feelings about today and the forthcoming days, then that enables us to really mould a conference around your interests. Just to remind you, we have an advisory board committee which takes place every February, which helps to sort of shape this event. And we value your opinion, so I'd like to extend an invite to as many of you who can to come along to that. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to you now to our chairman for the day, Mr. Bill Blondie from Strategy Analytics, who can then talk you quickly through the agenda and the speakers that we have. Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much, Ed, and thank you very much for inviting me to participate in today's event. And good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to the opening of the Smart Homes 2012 conference. I am Bill Blondie, Director of the Smart Home Strategies practice at Strategy Analytics, a consulting and consumer research firm focusing on convergence of computing and communications, as well as buyer behavior and the competitive dynamics, all with a focus on consumer reactions to the market. And in fact, the smart home has all those dynamics at play, so I'm very interested to participate and hear what the conversation say. In fact, Synergy has done a great job of pulling together people with a variety of perspectives from the consumer to market opportunities to business models for this event over the next 3 days, this afternoon and next 2 days. And I'm expecting to learn a lot from the debates and be stimulated by those issues that are raised in the discussions. The format today, I won't run through the agenda line item by line item, but we have 3 20-minute presentations back to back, followed by a question and answer period, which will then break for coffee for a period of time, perhaps 45 minutes, maybe a little less, since we did leave, we did start a little bit late, and I will allow all the speakers their full 20 minutes. And then we'll come back for a panel discussion to wrap up the afternoon, and concluding with a couple of observations that I will provide for you at the end of the day. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Colin Calder, CEO and founder of PassivSystems, and recent recipient of a couple of major awards, won a Global Clean Tech 100 award and the World Economic Forum Technology Pioneer Award. Colin?
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for being here on time. As soon as my presentation is up, we can get going. Right, we're off. So I wanted to start with a slightly provocative title, which is about evolve or die. And how many people here are from utilities? I just want to know how many am I going to... Okay. I'll have to look out for myself as I leave the room. I wanted to really stimulate a conversation here. I'm sure you did not want to come and listen to another speech about smart grids and smart meters. So let's have a different debate, which is about consumers. But I'm going to start off talking about some market drivers. And this is the way PassivSystems sees the world. Hang on a minute. Can we go back one? Thank you. So we see the world moving. Am I in control or you? Okay. So we seem to have a time delay on the slides working. If we can hold that one. So we'll try again. Okay, so we see the world moving from centrally generated power to a fully distributed generation model. And one of the most significant things about that change is we're moving from us controlling the generation of supply to having weather-driven generation where we've got to control the demand. In other words, demand has got to match the available supply. And we see that as probably being one of the most fundamental shifts that will take place in the market over the next 5 to 15 years. The second thing is that the UK probably has a steeper curve than most. We have 85% of our homes are heated by gas. So over the next 40 years, we've got to shift a lot of gas-heated homes onto electric or other more friendly forms of energy generation. And so we're going to see a much steeper rise in the use of electricity in the UK, perhaps, than other European countries, such as France, which is already 40% electric. And we firmly believe ICT is going to play a very strategic role in making all of this happen. But we think it's going to happen in a different pace, and at a different pace to perhaps what the industry is anticipating. We think ultimately the consumers will be driving this agenda. And so that's what I'm going to talk about over the next few minutes. In terms of the regulations, UK has got plenty of disruptive regulations going through at the moment. And you can see the middle band is all about consumers. So we've got things like Green Deal, which is encouraging consumers to make their homes more energy efficient. And they can do that on the back of free loans, free money, which is administered by the utilities. We've had things like CERT and CESP, which were basic subsidy schemes. I think the utilities were handing out up to £1 billion a year in subsidies of various forms, again, encouraging consumers to do things differently in the use of energy in their homes. And of course, more recently, we've had the introduction of things like feed-in tariffs around solar PV. So these are just some of the disruptive regulations that are impacting the market and shifting the market forward. So what's going to happen? We're going to move from the old model where, the lights were always on, the consumer got the energy bill, probably didn't like it, and it was a one-way communication, and it wasn't particularly important in the consumer's mind. And this is how we see the future. We see the home becoming much smarter, and one of the issues around that, and I think this is one of the biggest contentious issues for utilities today, is we see the home over time using less energy. And the debate we get into with utilities again and again and again is, why would we want to deploy your technology, Colin, when all you're going to do is reduce the margin off our existing customers? Well, you know what, guys, you've got to get over it. Paradigm shifts occur in markets. And you are going to incur a paradigm shift in this industry. And yes, it will change your business model. It will not be particularly friendly or attractive. And I'm going to talk through some of the paradigm shifts that have occurred in the last 20 years to other industries. And my message is, it's going to happen to this one, and probably sooner than you expect. So here is where the money is. It's clearly around home services. And that can be in the form of finance packages around helping consumers to transition to low-carbon homes. And also it's around some of the service models that will come out of putting the home online and then managing the equipment in the home in a more energy-efficient way. But you're not the only people looking at this. Telcos are well ahead of the game in the US, and Bill could talk to that better than I can, but you're probably aware that security is very much a bundled proposition in the US with telco propositions. We're aware of telcos in Europe, again, working in this space, and I'm sure many of you have seen what T-Mobile have done with their Quivicom platform. And also retailers. Don't forget, retailers are still reeling from the impact of the internet. Every year, more and more of their business is going online. And that is causing the retail industry to have to re-examine how it sells products. And don't be surprised if you suddenly find retailers have decided to enter the services business, because it's going to be an inevitability that they will shift into a space where they can make more money than competing against the internet. There's so much talk about this guy. And, you know, it doesn't even figure in the consumer's vocabulary. It is just one device of dozens in a home. And really, it's not very important. And so, you know, smart meters will happen one day, but, you know, is it going to change the market? Is the market waiting for smart meters to move on? Absolutely not. Oh, here's another thing. Have you ever thought about the life of a transformer? I know I'm preaching to the people who know better than I do, but you know, it's a 40 to 60 year write-off. So, smart grid, when is it going to happen? Well, I don't think we're going to be writing off any of those transformers anytime soon. So again, we talk as if smart grid is going to be here tomorrow. I don't see it. I really don't. I think what will be here sooner is an information age-driven change with consumers absolutely driving the agenda. So I want to go back to 1993. Who remembers Mosaic? Mosaic was launched in April 93, and it was the technology that put a user-friendly interface onto the World Wide Web, and it transformed the market. And I think this is, you know, I'm going to talk about the transformation that's taken place in other industries and then come back to this market. So we used to go to a bookstore to buy a book. And then Amazon was founded in 1994 and changed that model. And again, more recently, with the advent of tablets, we don't even download books we don't even buy books online anymore, we download them. So this is all about, you know, using technology in the information age to fit into the way we live, to fit into how we want to buy things and how we think about the world. And I passionately believe this change is going to come into the energy industry. But it didn't stop just with books and retail. You know, this has touched so many different industries. Low-cost airlines did not exist until we had Mosaic providing a user-friendly interface to the internet. And then that whole industry got challenged. And the airline industries have been struggling ever since to recover from that huge change that took place in the industry. Retailers, as I said, in some countries, 35% of retail has gone online. Who would have thought Circuit City in the US and Best Buy would be struggling to make money in the market today? And all of this is because of the paradigm shift that's occurred. And of course, the telecoms industry knows better than anyone what happens when you sit on the fence and you don't respect what a paradigm shift is going to do to you. It decimates your business, and it takes years to get back in control. Well, today we're launching our new CD by the new consumers, and it's called Help. And believe me, consumers need help, and this is where we really ought to be focusing our energy and also focusing the opportunity for shifting this market forward. And I believe this is far more interesting and far more commercially viable than smart metering and smart grids. So I want to talk a little bit about the home. And we, like many other companies, are investing millions in this space. And if you look across the globe, there are billions of pounds being invested in new technology, new ways of thinking about creating energy, managing energy, and the way in which consumers will interact and engage with energy. And all of those changes are ultimately going to come into the market. All of those technology developments will come into the market. And you know, over the next 5 years, 1 or 2 of them will get to mass market penetration. And that will be the catalyst that shifts the market. That's the catalyst which will create the paradigm shift to emerge and challenge the existing models that we see. So one of the things is, you know, consumers invest in all this stuff, but believe me, it does not run the way you think it does. So take a condensing boiler, which many of you probably have at home. Well, across Europe, 1 in 3 boilers don't condense because the return temperature is too high. In the Middle East, they did a trial. They serviced the air conditioning of equipment, just cleaned the filters and checked the coolant. They got a 27% reduction in energy consumption. So you have all this kit running in your home, burning lots of energy, and you think it's working for you in an efficient way. It isn't. And so this is all about unlocking value and transferring it back to consumers. And wherever we look, you know, in the home, there is opportunity to create value. I'm on a pause, not knowing whether it's going to move on or not. So these are some of the technologies that are moving forward in terms of developments. We're seeing the coefficient of performance of heat pumps go up almost on a year-by-year basis. Solar PV, today, you know, we're very big into solar PV in the UK as one of the, or as the largest residential monitoring company. And you know, I'm looking at solar today that is almost cost efficient with grid supplied electricity on 16% efficient panels. And yet the industry's already got panel technology that can perform at 21% and 24% efficiency. So, you know, as those technologies come into the market, we're going to see another step change in terms of the cost effectiveness of the technology. Again, we see storage as being a fundamental part of this story. So we've moved beyond just energy efficiency to saying actually the future is about efficiency, generation, storage, and management of consumption. And if you can control all those things together, you can actually create a very interesting proposition, not just for consumers, but also for the utility industry. So what do as a company? We integrate all of these devices through a single interface. And the purpose of that single interface is to keep the consumer out of the technology. It's purely to allow them to manage their home around occupancy. Are you in or are you not? Are you in bed or are you active? And then we manage that technology in a way that we can start to provide grid flexibility. And I'm going to dig a little deeper into this because I go back to my original point. We're going to move from centrally generated, supply-driven generation to weather-dependent energy availability where demand needs to match the available supply. And one of the key elements of that is storage. And so what we're advocating is the cheapest place to put storage is in the home. And I'm going to go through a couple of examples where this has been done before. Right. So this is all about now changing consumer behavior through their wallet. And it goes, well, I'm going back to the mid-50s. And back in the mid-50s, when we move on, I think you need a new controller. So back in the mid-50s, UK introduced nuclear power. And they didn't know what to do with baseload. So at that time, the utility came out with this great scheme. If you install these storage heaters in your home, which were horrendously inefficient, then you could have electricity between midnight and 7 in the morning for a discount of 60%. And guess what? 20% of UK homeowners went out and bought these heaters. And that dealt with baseload nuclear. So one of the things we're saying here is if we get this right, we can give a signal to consumers, a price signal. It's not about time of use price signals. It's about something that is significant in the way in which they might re-engineer their homes in order to get value for themselves and at the same time provide value back to the utility. In this case, it was to deal with the issue of baseload nuclear. The other big game changer, and I've alluded to this, is we absolutely believe PV is going to be a transformational technology. We know today in the UK we're about 1.5p off grid parity. And as I said, as the efficiency of these technologies increase from 16% to 21% or 24%, and as we further reduce the cost of installing PV, and we know there's an opportunity to get a further 40% of cost out of the installation of PV, then you can do the maths. It is going to be fairly near term, like 24 months to 36 months, when we're going to see below grid parity for the use of PV on roofs, residential roofs. And I think, a price change like that will actually be a major stimulus to the market. And it does mean that ultimately PV may start to drive this change, and it may be an unwelcome change by the industry because you won't be in control of it. It will be totally driven by the fact that consumers can get a better deal somewhere else through doing their own thing. So, as I said at the beginning, our paradigm shift is all about matching demand to supply. And this is the big change. And so, if I have ICT in the home that understands your home and when it uses energy and how much energy it uses and for what, which is what we do, because we have an external weather feed, so we know what the external weather is. We know what the internal temperature is. We know what that building will need to heat it or cool it over a period of time. And then by using learning algorithms, we can actually start to model that home in terms of its energy demand, its energy generation, and ultimately its energy storage capability. And if then we go one further step and provide an aggregation platform where we can use all that knowledge to start to manipulate the energy consumption in the home by using the stores, the energy storage, then we can start to create a more affordable, low-carbon energy network. And this is where we believe regulators need to take a firmer stand in actually driving beyond the energy efficiency agenda into understanding energy storage in the home can become a key component of creating affordable low-carbon networks. So one of the conversations I have with DEC, which is the Department of Energy and Climate Change in the UK, is really, how can we take the Economy 7 tariff, the 60% off electricity between midnight and 7 in the morning, how can we turn that into a flexible tariff that says, you know what, when there's excess wind coming off the North Sea, that can get dumped into storage in the home. And by the way, when I talk about storage, I'm talking about storing heat. I'm not talking about batteries. Because at the end of the day, what a home uses in Northern Europe is heat. And in the Middle East, it's coolth. So we don't need to use expensive technology, and we don't need to store electricity. This is all about storing energy in the thermal mass of the building, in phase change material, in hot water or in cold water, in order to release that at a later time, and at that point to then constrain the demand on the energy network because maybe electricity is in short supply. So this is all about coming up with a model that says consumers could build this capacity into their homes using their capital, and then in the same way as a feed-in tariff, enter into a contract where they can sell that capacity to the grid operator in order for the operator to use it at the times that we've got North Sea wind or renewable energy that no one wants, and we can make full use of it rather than turning wind farms off. And then during periods when we don't have enough supply, we can actually constrain demand in those properties. And this avoids all the redundant costs of building out additional fossil-fired energy power stations, which we see as a completely unnecessary investment based on the old model rather than this paradigm shift that's possible. And really, this says it all. All consumers want at the end of the day is affordable energy. They certainly don't want to get involved in understanding anything about it. They don't want to be the energy manager. And our argument is, ICT can perform this function for them, and they can just get on with their life. So, utilities, my message is, there are plenty of companies outside of the utility market looking to enter the services industry within the consumer's homes. And there are some very attractive propositions here that we think some of those competing organizations will follow through in the market. Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much.